So this morning, we're reading from Exodus 20, 1 through 17. You can follow along with the words printed in your bulletin. These are the 10 Commandments. Then God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing children for the iniquity of parents to the third and the fourth generation of those who reject me, but showing steadfast love to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not acquit anyone who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your male or female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, but rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, male or female slave, ox, donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. The word of the Lord. Let's pray. God, as you've given us these words, help us to see the way that they call us into greater union, greater closeness with you, into new life that you offer us with these words, that we might live them and experience your freedom. Amen. Now, I might be really dating myself with this reference, but did anybody in here ever have a MySpace? I'm looking at this corner particularly. Yeah, a handful of us. It came from this really small, narrow window of internet history. It was this early social media platform, and one of its most infamous features was that on your profile, you had this little corner where you were supposed to list your top 8 friends. Now, you can just imagine the drama that this would cause amongst socially anxious high schoolers. Who do you put in there? Who gets the top spot? Who makes the cut? Your best friend is there, but are you in their top spot? Where does this go? What happens if you get into a relationship? Where do they go in your list? One of the most significant things that you could do with the important people in your life is to put them in that top 8, especially to put them in that top spot. It means something when somebody is first, when nobody is before them on your list of who is important to you, to who you care about. It's kind of what's going on with the first commandment here. God says, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, brought you out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. I will be first in your top 8. And I'm putting you first in mine. Amongst all the nations, I'm putting you first. If you think back to last week's reading, you might remember that the 10 Commandments, they were given as a type of wedding vow between God and his people. Remember that scene? God is at the top of Mount Sinai. There's smoke, there's fire, there's thunder. It's this intimidating scene. And the people are down below looking up. And there's this exchange between them. They're facing one another, making promises. And God says to them, I will be your God, and you will be my people. And the people say back, whatever you ask us to do, we will do. Part of that covenant, that exchanging of vows, is this first commandment. God saying, you shall have no other gods before me. In other words, our relationship needs to be exclusive. I am committing myself to you. You, of all people, will be my treasured possession. You will be a holy nation to me. Now, commit yourself to me in the same way that I'm committing myself to you. If you want to understand what Christianity is all about, this is a really good place to start. Because it's less like just adopting a new worldview or a new set of moral principles or a new sort of philosophical mindset on the world. Although it is partly those things too, becoming a Christian is much more like entering a committed, loving, and exclusive relationship than just grabbing onto a new set of ideas. It's like a marriage relationship, where the love actually deepens and grows over time between you and God because of these firm commitments that are made to each other in this kind of wedding ceremony. It's because there are firm commitments and exclusivity to this relationship that it's able to grow and deepen and flourish in this way. Now we'll unpack this marriage and relationship example a little bit more later, but first, I want to just say a few words about Hebrew prepositions. Now, I hope that your eyes don't glaze over thinking this is going to become just a grammar class, but the word that's used in this first commandment is a really important one. It's the Hebrew preposition al. It's just 2 letters long. It's translated as before in the translation that we used this morning, but this Hebrew word carries a lot of meaning for being so short. Al can mean before, as in before all the other things in a line, as in first in importance, as if God is saying, you shall have no other gods before me, as if there's this line of other gods, and saying, as long as I'm first, that's okay. It could mean that, but it could also mean, you shall have no other gods before me, as in, I am facing you, my face is towards you, and you shall have no other gods before me, as in front of my face, as in, I am looking at you, my eyes are on you. And if you were to bring another god into your life, that would all be happening right in front of me. Do not have any other gods before me as I'm looking at you. Al can also mean besides. Don't have any gods next to me or of equal importance. It can also mean above. It can also mean against. It's a word that can also mean in addition to. It means all of these things. There's a lot of meaning packed into that one short Hebrew sound or syllable. Now this makes trying to read Hebrew really fun if you're a nerd and like to figure out all of this language sort of stuff, but it also can be really confusing if one word can have all of these different meanings, because it means that you have to figure out what's going on, a lot of it just based on context. Does God mean it this way or that way or all of those ways? I think in some ways it's all of those things. But for our time together this morning, I want us to look at particularly just 2 of what those meanings might be. They are, if God is saying to his people, I want you to have no other gods before me, as in, if there's this list of what's important to you, I don't want you to have anything above me on that list. Or if there's a line of people or other gods, I want you to have none before me. I want to be at the front of what's most important to you. But also, I think God is saying, I don't want you to have any other gods before me, as in I am facing you, and do not bring any other gods before my face, as I'm looking at you in love and in commitment. So those are going to be our 2 meanings that we're going to focus on this morning. So first, if God is saying, have no gods before me on your list of who you love and who you worship, whether you call yourself religious or not, everybody has something or someone at the top of their list of who or what they love. This thing, whatever it is at the top of your list, is what catches your attention the most. This is the thing that you're putting your hope in for the future. This is whatever it is that gives your life meaning and purpose. This, whatever it is that you put all of your hope and meaning and purpose in, for all it's worth, this is your God. The great reformer Martin Luther said, whatever your heart clings to and confides in, that is really your God. Whatever your heart clings to and confides in, whatever you want most, that's what's governing and ruling your life. And this could be any number of good things. It could be personal success. It could be your family or romantic relationships. It could be anything or anyone. But what the point is that we all have something that we give our love and attention to. Functionally, we all have a God that we hope will save us and give us the kind of life that we want. And it's not just Christians that have noticed this or that say this kind of thing. David Foster Wallace was a hugely influential writer and thinker in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he never called himself a Christian, although he was clearly somebody who was spiritually seeking. He articulated this idea really well in this famous commencement speech that he gave in 2005. You might have heard of it before. The speech is titled, "This is Water." And if you have heard it before, it's really worth listening to again, but I'm just going to read an excerpt from it as he's giving this address to graduating college students. It's kind of a long quote, so just hang in there, but it's got a lot of depth and truth to it. He says this to these soon-to-be graduates. "In the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is no such thing as atheism. There is no such thing as not worshiping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship." He says, "And an outstanding reason for choosing some sort of God or spiritual type thing to worship, be it JC or Allah, be it Adonai or the Wiccan mother goddess or the Four Noble Truths or some infrangible set of ethical principles, is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive. If you worship money and things, if they are where you tap real meaning in life, then you will never have enough. You will never feel that you have enough. It's the truth. Worship your own body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly. And when time and age start showing, you will die a million deaths before they finally plant you." On one level, we all know this stuff already. It's been codified as myths and proverbs and cliches and parables. It's the skeleton of every great story. But the trick is keeping the truth up front in daily consciousness. Worship power, and you will feel weak and afraid. You will need ever more power over others to keep that fear at bay. Worship your intellect. Being seen as smart, you will end up feeling stupid. A fraud, always on the verge of being found out. The insidious thing about these forms of worship is not that they're evil or sinful. It's that they're unconscious. These are our default settings. They're the kind of worship that you just gradually slip into day after day, getting more and more selective about what you see and how you measure value without ever being fully aware that that's what you're doing. Doesn't that ring true? Something is always first. We're always worshiping something, which makes us ask, what's first for you? What gets most of your attention? When you think of what you want, what comes first to that list? What do you spend most of your time thinking about? What do you find yourself looking for and yearning for and wishing and saying, I wish I had more of this. If I had this, things would be okay. To really answer this question of what you want, of what you worship, of what's at the top of your list of what you love and what you desire, it can take some serious soul searching. Because as he says, it's unconscious. We might know the right answer of what we should want, or what we should have at the top of our list, but the way we live our lives reveals what really is there. The first step to following this first commandment is figuring out what is really at the top of our list of what we love. Figuring out what it is. And once you know what is occupying that top spot, and then maybe you see that that's the thing that's coming between you and God, then the better you'll be able to apply the first commandment. You'll know what needs to be removed or lowered on that list. Because just because it's at the top doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Family, relationships, personal success, these can be good things, but they don't belong at the top. To follow the first commandment means to put it in its proper place. God is saying, if you want to have your list of loves in proper order, start with me and let everything else come in the place where it's meant to be. The first commandment is a call to consciously put God first, to examine what is our default setting? What are we really worshiping with our life and our time and our attention? Where can we really put it? Where does it belong in our list of what we love? And then how can we put God first and let everything else work its way into its proper order? That's what God is saying when he says, have no other gods before me. Put me first and let everything else fall into place where it belongs. Now, this is what it means to have no other gods before me in that way. But what about the other me? Have no other gods before my face, as I, this God who loves you, am looking at you. As my eyes are fixed on you, have no other gods in front of me. The best way to understand this one, I think, is for us to shift a little bit from the world of sort of theology or philosophy into the world of romance. There was a Swiss theologian who said, lovers are the ones who know the most about God. Theologians should listen to them. There's an example that Kevin DeYoung gives. He's a pastor and an author who wrote this book on the Ten Commandments. And he talks about the relationship between a husband and a wife. And for the first commandment, he gives this illustration. He says, suppose a husband came home and said, honey, it's good to see you. I want to introduce you to someone who's very special to me. Don't get me wrong, you're also very special too, but I've met somebody else. And she's lovely, and I'm going to be spending some time with her, but also a lot of time with you too. I just want you to know that some nights I'm going to be with her instead. And I think the two of you are going to get along just fine. Yeah, I think you guys would be great friends. You both just mean so much to me. How would that go? What would a wife say in this situation? Or what should a wife say in this situation? Should she say, oh, that's great, dear. I'm so honored that I can still be a part of your life. Or, no. The wife should say, absolutely not. It's either me or her. Make up your mind. This is not a both and relationship. This is an either or relationship. And if the wife were to say this with a great deal of passion, maybe anger that he would even bring this up, I don't think anybody would think that she's being cruel or proud or unfair or intolerant or unreasonable. No. We would say she's being exactly the kind of wife that she should be, protecting the exclusivity of that relationship. She has every right to be jealous. Not jealous like somebody who's overprotective and controlling, but jealous as somebody who cares so much about that love and that relationship. Frankly, we'd be concerned if she wasn't angry. Marriage is a relationship that demands forsaking all others. And so it is with God. Love is at the very heart of the first commandment. Now, if you're familiar with the story of the Bible, do you remember what happens when Moses eventually comes down from Mount Sinai after spending some time up there receiving these marriage vows from God? What are the people doing down at the bottom of that mountain? They are worshiping this golden calf that they've created. Moses was on the mountain for 40 days, and the people panicked. They absolutely freaked out. They thought, God has abandoned us and left us. We need something else to worship. We need a God that we can create and see and who we know is going to be present with us, a God that's going to provide us what we want. So they immediately go and make a God of their own. That list of things that we love, that top spot never remains empty. We always put something there. When we're afraid or confused, we are so quick to put something in that place that we believe is going to comfort us or protect us or give us what we feel like we need or want. We're so prone to give ourselves over to other loves, to other things that we ask to serve as gods in our life. And we do all of this right in front of God's face. When Moses goes down, it's essentially because God is saying, hey, I see what's going on down there. These people that I've just rescued, that I've committed myself to, have immediately turned their back on me and have brought another God into their life, have brought essentially another spouse into this relationship that's meant to be exclusive. And what does God do about this? About this chronic unfaithfulness that we see in the people of Israel? Because this is not the first time they do this. As you read the story of the Old Testament, you see that this happens again and again and again. It's the same impulse that lives in us, to run into the arms of whatever or whoever promises to give us what we not want, to give us that comfort, to give us that security, to give us that promise that they're going to provide for us. Now, there are two people in the Bible that show the extent of how far God goes to respond to the unfaithfulness of his people. Two who I think demonstrate it incredibly clearly and really well. One is the prophet Hosea. This is a short story that's tucked into the middle of the Bible and one of those books that most people don't even read and just kind of skip right over. But it's this powerful story of a man who God called to be a living example of what it looks like to live with somebody who breaks the first commandment. God says to Hosea, I want you to go and marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her. For like an adulterous wife, this land is guilty of unfaithfulness to the Lord. So Hosea, he goes and he marries this woman named Gomer. And she lives up to the promiscuity that God talked about. She ran off with another man. And then she ran off with another man. And many other men. To the point where she actually ended up trapped and serving and living as a prostitute. She was employed by one of these men. God is turning Hosea's wife into a living image of what the relationship between God and his people has been like. As if you were called to be in this exclusive, loving relationship with me, and you have continued to run after other God, after other God, after other God, opening yourself up to them to just be taken and used however they like. But then, to demonstrate just how deeply committed God's love really is to his people, God then says to Hosea, go and show your love to your wife again. Though she is loved by another man, love her as the Lord loves the Israelites. And so Hosea goes, and he pays this enormous amount of money to buy off her contract, to free her from this life of living as a prostitute, and brings her home to be his wife again. And he recommits himself to her, and she recommits herself to him. And God is saying, this is how far you've fallen from me. This is how unfaithful you've been to me. But this is how deep my love is for you, to bring you back and to reestablish this relationship. Gomer, Hosea's wife, was bought out of a horrible type of slavery that she got herself into. She was set free. She was brought into a committed, loving covenant marriage with the very man that she had betrayed, the man who she had flaunted her unfaithfulness in his face. And yet he responded by paying this high price to bring her back into his love. Now, the other person who shows us how God responds when we break the first commandment is Jesus. He's the one who comes to us, his people, when we've been unfaithful, when we've looked for love or security or meaning or purpose and our identity and all of these other gods that we see in our life. Whatever we have at the top of our list of loves, the gods of control or wealth or sex or vanity, all these gods that David Foster Wallace says will eat us alive. Jesus sees us before his face in relationships with these gods, and he says, I have come to buy you back. I've come to pay an incredibly high price to win you back, to give up my life as that price, to pay that price at the cross, to buy you out of slavery from these gods who will only ever take from you. I've come to buy you back and to bring you home, to bring you to our home. Even though you've been unfaithful, Jesus asks, will you re-enter this covenant marriage relationship with me? That's the question we all have to ask ourselves. That's the question at the heart of the gospel. Can we own up to and admit our unfaithfulness to God? That we've run after and longed for other things that we think are going to take care of us, that we think are going to give us comfort. To put these things at the top of our list of loves that we long for, that we spend our time chasing after, that we give our attention to. Can we admit that we've been unfaithful and then respond to this invitation that Jesus gives, saying, I've paid your price, that you can leave those other gods, you can leave those other relationships and be in this loving, exclusive relationship with me. To be a Christian is to say, even though I don't deserve it, Even though I'm not proud of what I've done, I say yes. Humbly and gratefully, yes. I will re-enter that covenant relationship. How do you answer that question that God is calling us to give an answer to? Will you re-enter that relationship? Let's pray. God, even though we look high and low, searching for someone or something to make us feel safe and seen and loved, you come to us in your Son. You come to us in your word, reminding us that you have a place for us, that you have committed yourself to us, that your love for us has never failed. While we have been unfaithful, God, we turn to you and we ask that you would come and take that top spot in our list of loves. Lord, help us to see all that you've done, to fall more and more in love with you, to be faithful, to seek after you, to have no other gods before you, nothing in order of importance, but also to remember that we are always before you, that you look at us, your eyes are on us, your loving eyes are watching us. We ask that we would not bring anything else into this relationship, that we would not be unfaithful before you, but that we can have you at the center of our attention, that we can look back at you with that same love and enjoy this relationship you call us to. Amen.